Let's dive right in. This is the walkthrough video for the vial assets. You can see we've got a reasonably good selection here, all the way from 0.25 dram all the way up to the nice 20 ml scintillation vial that you would find pretty standard in any lab. Now, there's a few toggles and controls that I want to go through here and some options available. So for starters, we'll grab each vial and lid, and we'll say that every single one of them, if you come to the modifier properties, has a subdivision surface of 2, and it is disabled in the viewport so that it will speed up processing because there's quite a bit of glass in here and it can be a bit of a nuisance to render. So with that in mind, let's hit Z, come up to rendered. Now these are all in cycles, and you can see there's a few fine details here that I want to sort of touch on. So for starters, with the glass, if you come to any of the vials and grab it, you'll see that they all have the same glass material. There is also an option for amber glass. And if you want to use the amber glass, then the only thing that you really need to keep in mind is that the controls for the color and the darkness are not in the surface up here. They are down here with the volume. So the color is controlled here and the darkness is controlled by this density. So something smaller will make it lighter, something higher will make it darker. And that's just about it for that. In terms of the other materials, you can see that there are options for the lids. So if you grab the scintillation vial right here, you can see there's nice little knurling or patterning at the top. You can control that by opening this, and you can kind of mess with the number of ridges. 200 is not the actual number here, but if we drop this down to say 20, you'll see we get much coarser ridging, whereas if you bring it all the way up to 200, you get much finer ridging. How prominent those are is controlled by this number, so 0 will mean not at all, and then 1 will be quite a bit more significant. So I've got it set to, I believe, 0.5 by default. There are other materials here, and if we grab the actual inside of this lid, so we'll just bring it up, we'll rotate it around, you can see that there is some aluminum inside. This is kind of the foil that you would typically expect to see here. You can also see that all of the lids are actually threaded and matched, and they have this internal little catch that many of them do. So we'll reset that and put it back down. By default, all of the lids are actually parented to the vials that they go with. So if I grab the vial and move it, the lid will go with it as well. And if we look at the other lids, we can see that similarly, we have a few options. So this one has a ridged black plastic material, that's right here. There's a shiny black plastic, which is right there. And there's an internal paper seal, which is sort of the same as for the aluminum. Again, we can control the ridge number with this value here, but for this one, we can actually also control the patterning. So if you just drag this up, you'll see that we have different patterns available, and this is actually something that you would see pretty standard on a lot of different vials. They don't all have nice uniform patterns. Sometimes they do have little areas that are more or less offset, so this is something you can control, and again, you control how prominent this effect is with this toggle down here. Finally, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning here is just that these have two different lid options. So let's grab our 1 dram vial, which is right there. And if we come in and we hide the standard lid, we can open the auto sampler lid. So if you were working with something like a GPC or anything where you have an auto sampler system where you have a needle puncture through this little rubber septum up here, then you'd be able to adjust that. You can control the color by adjusting the internal plastic. So if you'd like it to be pretty much any color you want, then you can change it to that. I have it as a kind of blue by default. And there's a slight patterning and texture on that as well, so you can kind of adjust that as needed. Like I mentioned, these are available for every single vial in here, but they are hidden as the default option, and the standard lid is the one that comes with all of them. Other than that, the thing that I think is worth mentioning is if we actually hide the lids outright, you can see each of the vials has pretty much proper threading for how these would actually appear in real life. So kind of a rough pattern. The lids are actually all thread matched to the actual vials themselves. So if we restore that vial, which one was that? It's the one. We restore that, then this lid actually has internal threading that matches. And if we just bring that up and rotate it, you can see that that is the case here. There it is in solid view. And again, these also have this little white internal paper seal that you would see pretty standard on many of these types of vials. So as per the rest of the Glassware assets that I've released up until now, these are available for free. You can find them on Gumroad or BlendSwap, and these are scaled to match all of the previously released glassware that I have made. So everything will go together very nicely as a set if this is something that you're looking for. Other than that, as always, thanks for coming out. If you enjoyed this video or these assets, please consider subscribing, sharing with your friends and colleagues. Many thanks to my supporters on Patreon, as always. And until next time, you have yourselves a great old day.